He's like, we can shoot this up, right? Like, and I was like, all right, like, let's try it. So I grabbed 2 clean syringes and he tied me off. Now I'm doing this to mom. I'm tying mom off and sticking the needle in mom's arm.
This is Hard Knocks Talks.
Lewis, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
So you're a person in recovery. You're a podcast host, the Get a Grip podcast. Make sure you check that out on YouTube. You're a marketing consultant, and you've got a wild story, man. Like I listened to a bit of it on your own podcast there, and I'm not going to drop any spoilers here. But is there anything that you really want to say before we jump into it?
If anybody's watching that is in a situation similar to the one I was in, my advice is always look for the similarities, not the differences, because people love to look for the differences and say, "Oh, well, I wasn't as bad as him." Look for the similarities, not the differences.
Hmm. So let's not waste any time. Let's jump into it. Why don't you take us back to the start? What was it like growing up?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in a small town or a small suburb in Columbus, Ohio, called Grandview Heights. It is the epitome of like white picket fence, suburbia. I don't have stories to tell you of like not having food on the table or like missing meals or like none of that was an issue. My dad raised me extremely well, took great care of me and my sister. I only have one sibling. It's just me and her. And actually, we're all that's left. I lost my mom to an overdose 6 years ago. She's a part of my story, and she was, an alcoholic addict just like me. My grandfather died of cirrhosis of the liver. My grandmother on my mom's side committed suicide.
Yeah.
Growing up, I was super active kid. I played every sport under the sun: soccer, football, baseball, you name it, I did it. I'll fast forward to 5th grade, which is the first time I was like given any I don't know, any educational material on like drugs and alcohol, and it was D.A.R.E. And basically what I took away from D.A.R.E. as a child was that if I used drugs or I drank, my life was going to basically come to an end immediately. Like there was going to be immediate consequences and my life would burn to the ground.
Mhm.
Not knowing how addiction actually works, right? I didn't even know what addiction was as a 5th grader. And I didn't know that it takes time before the consequences come. The first couple times are fun and then, it becomes not fun eventually. But that's what I was told, just say no. And I was scared. They honestly scared me into not doing drugs. I didn't want to do drugs. And so when I got into high school, my freshman year, believe it or not, I didn't touch a drink or a drug. And I started watching my buddies sophomore year go out to parties. They would come back to school Monday and their lives hadn't burned to the ground. And I was like, oh my God, they lied. And I decided Thanksgiving break sophomore year, I remember it very, very well, that I was going to go to a party. And I did. And I went and I drank and I smoked some weed and I drank some beers. And it was, in fact, amazing. There are a lot of people, I've heard people say that they'd never had good times, previous people who were addicts, whatever. That's bullshit to me. I had a ton of good times.
And let me just jump in here for a second. There's a saying, and anyone who's been listening for a long time to my podcast has heard me say this before. There's a saying in the program, and I can hear that you're talking about.
I know where you're going.
Yeah. My best day, my worst day sober is better than my best day drunk. And like the first time I heard,
Yeah.
I was like 5 minutes clean the first time I heard that, and even then I was like, I can't align with that because like I had some
No.
great times, like meth is a hell of a drug if you can do it once a year.
Yeah, if I could use I'll tell you right now, if I could use without consequences, I would be doing opiates today, right now,
Mhm. Yeah.
like right now.
Yeah. Well,
know?
and that's the thing. Like nobody comes skidding into recovery because they're having a good life.
Yeah, right.
So
Things aren't
and
going well.
yeah, and
Uh,
I'm just going to add a little caveat on here. Like what we're saying, like don't go and try and do meth once because it might be
right.
awesome. Like that's not what I'm saying at all. All
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying is that there were some great times at the beginning. Otherwise, I wouldn't have kept doing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm,
And dude, it like that party, like I was like, holy shit, that's the missing piece. Because my whole thing was I always wanted to belong. It's like,
mm,
where does Lewis fit in this world? And I went to that party and I was like, oh, this is it. This is the piece that I'm missing. And I remember I came back to school the following Monday and people came up to me and were like, man, that party was awesome. And we had so much fun. Da 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 da. I can't wait to have another, whatever. And I was like, oh my God, it felt so good. Like I finally felt like I belonged. Eventually, I'd be in the cafeteria one day and my friend would give me an Adderall. And he didn't even tell me what it was. He's like, here you go. Take this. You're gonna like it. And I said, well, what is it? He said, doesn't matter. Just take it. You're gonna like it. I just took it and I liked it. And it was a lot of fun. I felt like I could study, I could focus better, I was smarter, whatever
mhm.
bullshit you sell yourself in your head. Um, and so I started to dabble in other things here and there. Adderall, maybe some Vicodins once in a while. Um, in the junior year, we're doing mushrooms, LSD, things like that. And by my senior year, I mean, I am getting high every single day as often as I can. And somehow I managed to, without applying myself, without trying, I managed to get into a university, Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. And that was the only school I applied at. I applied to that school because I knew it was a party school and I knew they had a sick Halloween party. Those were that was it. And then I went to school for computer science because I like to build computers. Like I was like a nerd as a kid too. I like to build computers and game and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
I was like, yeah, I'll just do computer science and go to OU and we'll party and everything will be fine. My Lewis's playbook was get a degree, get married, buy a house, have kids, the perfect picturesque life. That's what I expected, right? I had no clue how in the hell I was going to do it,
Mhm.
but I knew that people do it. So I was like, I'm sure like it'll all fall into place at some point. I was selling drugs too senior year.
Yeah.
So the summer, this is 2009 now when I graduated high school, the summer between my senior year of high school and my freshman year of college, like I said, I was selling drugs. I went to re up, grab what I needed, and my dealer was like, hey, can you move these pills for me? And I was like, yeah, probably. What are they? He's like, they're Oxycontin 80s. And I was like, all right, yeah, sure. And he fronted me like a bunch of 80s and a bunch of perk 30s. And I remember I took them home and I was like, I got to try this shit. I got to see what it's all about. I'm going to be selling it. How am I going to sell it if I don't know what it is, what it feels like?
Mm.
Um, and I remember I did a line of Oxycontin and I think I did like 20 milligrams. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. I remember after that, I would frown upon drinkers. Like,
Oh, now you're above all that.
yeah, yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're drinking, getting blacking
Oh,
out and doing all this dumb shit. I'm just doing pills. Like,
yeah.
who's worse here, really?
Mhm.
That's the attitude I took. And like one of my biggest problems um that stopped me from getting sober was I always thought I was the smartest guy in the room. I always thought that I could outthink you, I could out manipulate you, I could outmaneuver you. Like, and if this got in the way or if this got really bad, I'd just hop off the train and we'd be fine. That's not what happened. So I go down to OU and they were quarterly back then. I made it through 2 quarters and I remember that feeling of not fitting in, like coming back. And I remember calling my dad, bawling my eyes out, telling him, like, I can't do this. I can't do it. I can't do the college thing. I passed my classes, but I was so uncomfortable in my own skin that I couldn't do it. I couldn't meet new friends. I couldn't, regardless of the partying, it, it, it was too much for me to bear.
Did you, like, did the pills go with you this time back to university?
Yeah, 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 I would
Okay.
take them. I would basically what I would do is I would come home every weekend because it was like an hour and a half drive. I'd get my pills and then I'd
Mhm.
come back down to OU, so I had enough for the week. But eventually I dropped out I sold my dad some bullshit story about how I was going to go to the community college here in Columbus and then transfer to Ohio State. I knew I wasn't going to do that. And I came home and I moved in with my girlfriend. I got a job at a burger spot and I went back to selling drugs.
Do you think looking back now that maybe university got in the way of your using?
Yeah, I mean, of course.
Is
Yeah,
that because like I
that
mean
of course that was.
I've heard people say that, and in fact, I had an NHL hockey player in the studio here, and he said that he actually left his professional hockey career because it was getting in the way of his cocaine use. You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
maybe that's what that was, like the way that you felt uncomfortable. Did you
the
feel like you were having,
emptiness. Yeah,
yeah, like you were having to keep that a secret? The people around you didn't necessarily know you were doing the pills.
yeah.
Like,
So it's like my roommate. I remember my roommate. He was like, I call him like a sweet angel. He was like a perfect kid. You know what I mean? Like did everything right his whole life. And I
Mhm.
would tell him like, "Hey, buddy, can you step out of the room for a second? I gotta do something." Because like to protect him, like I wanted to keep him safe. I didn't want him asking or you know wanting what I was doing.
So you knew at this point that this was a problem then? Like you knew like
I didn't know it was a huge problem, but I knew that it was frowned upon. I knew that like I would be looked at differently. Like if I went and drank beers, cool, totally cool. No one's gonna say shit. But if
Mhm,
you watch me snort a line of whatever, like you're gonna judge me and you're gonna have something to say about it, you know?
mhm.
So I knew that like that was frowned upon, but I didn't know that like physical dependency was right around the corner, you
Okay.
know?
Yeah, yeah, let's talk about
That
that. Let's talk about the first time you got dope sick.
Yeah, so I came back home and I was selling drugs successfully for let's see, I did it for about 3 years because in 2012 is when Purdue Pharma changed the formula to OxyContin, and they changed them from the OCs to the OPs. And the OCs you could like crush up, you could shoot them, you could snort them, you could do all this shit. The OPs you had to eat them. You couldn't snort them, you couldn't shoot them, and it flipped the market upside down completely. And then heroin just like appeared. And then I remember the first time I was dope sick, I ran out of pills. And I had to go to work. And I'm standing there over this flat iron grill at this burger place, flipping burgers. And I am sicker than a dog, like flu sick, opiate withdrawal.
Mhm.
And since I was selling drugs to my coworkers, they knew what I was about. One of the guys was like, "Yo, I can get you something that will make you feel better right now. Let's do it. Get it. Go. Call the guy. Get it."
Yeah,
And dude gave me a freebie of heroin. Gave me a free bag of heroin.
of course.
And the first time I used heroin was at my job in the bathroom. I locked the door and I did it on the baby changing station. I snorted a line, and I remember being like I felt better. I felt good. It was
Mhm.
cheaper too, and so I was like, "This is. I'll just switch to this. This will be much easier to manage. Whatever." Um, I always tell people like that should give you a pretty good idea of the disregard I had for my life at that point because A, I was at work. B, I locked the bathroom door. Like, what if I had overdosed?
Yeah.
I'm dead. you know? It really shows you how deep I how deep in it I was at that point downhill. I ended up losing the job. I lost my girlfriend, the condo we had. We had 2 cars, lost all that, and I moved back home with mom and dad. And I'm 22 maybe, and I remember I was talking to mom one day, and she was telling me that she did pills. I had kind of come clean with her about it, and she was prescribed oxys at one point, and I was like, "Well, I can like get us." She had fibromyalgia, so she had like a like legitimate excuse or reason to be prescribed these pills, and in my head, I'm like kind of doing her a favor, but also I knew she had some money, so like I could get some free shit once in a while, and like that addict thinking kicked in. And the first time we used heroin, we got tar, and it was called mud puddling. It's where you put the tar in like a spoon, put water in, mix it up, and then you actually snort the water.
Mm.
Um, That's called mud puddling. And
Education,
then
education on a
yep,
Sunday morning on Hard Knocks
there you
Talks.
go.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Mud puddling, yes. And then there was like white china, so there was like powder forms of heroin out there, which were that was my preference because it's a powder and you can snort it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my dad was diabetic, and he had insulin syringes galore. And my buddy, one of my buddies had come over one day, and like I remember I opened the drawer, and he was like, "Are those needles?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" He's like, we can shoot this shit up, right? Like we can save it, and like you can do less and get just as high." And I was like, "All right, like let's try it." So I grabbed two clean syringes, and he tied me off, um, stuck the needle in my arm, shot me up, and I was like, "Holy, this is amazing! Like
Mm.
this is fantastic." Now I'm doing this to mom. I'm tying mom off and sticking the needle in mom's arm.
And what are you thinking during all of this?
I gotta be honest with you. I don't know that there were thoughts. My moral. I was so low that my morals were gone, and it was like it was like trauma bonding. Like it was all I had. It was the only person I had. You know.
Mhm.
Um, and I just remember thinking like, so what? I mean, I really I didn't think too deep into it. Honestly, it wasn't like a big long discussion. It wasn't. No, it was just, this is what you want to do. Let's do it.
Would you say it was the only thing you felt you had in common with her? With anyone?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, yeah. If she wants to use with me, like, sweet. At least there's one person in this world that
Yeah.
wants to hang out with me. And you get lonely, man. Yeah, you
Yeah.
isolate. You get lonely.
Mhm.
And but I had her. Then I started committing crimes. Then it
Mm.
was like, all right, let's go break into cars. All right, mom's not breaking into cars, but sometimes she would drive. You know, um, let's go shoplift. Like one of my big things that I did was sell. I would boost, which is called, it's another name for shoplifting, and I had this guy who would buy toys off of me and sell them at like conventions.
Mm.
And so he'd be like, "Yo, can you get me some Legos? Can you get me this? Can you get me?" And I'd go to like Targets, Walmart's, Myers, whatever, and I'd just steal whatever he needed. If it was Legos, I'd go in and I'd stuff Legos in my pants and in my shirt and whatever, and walk out, and that's how I would get my money.
Mhm.
Um, I had another dope boy that, same thing. He'd give me a shopping list. I'd go to Kroger, load up the cart, just walk that bitch straight out the door,
Mhm.
and then go get the dope, and mom would be waiting outside in the car. Like she was complicit. Certainly she knew what I was doing. And one night we're going to leave to score, and we had some pills we were going to trade, different pills we were going to trade for dope, not like oxys or anything, something my mom was prescribed that the guy wanted. And I drive down the street, mom's in the car, and I see one of our hometown police officers sitting at the end of my street. He knew what I did. All those cops knew what I did. They just couldn't catch me. And I remember thinking, I was like, all right, he's going to pull me over. I knew he was going to pull me over, but I had nothing to really be afraid of. I knew my mom had her pills on her, but she was prescribed them. For whatever reason, I turned left into him. He makes a U turn, lights me up immediately. I drove like 4 blocks before I pulled over, and they arrested me for a misdemeanor eluding charge.
Mhm.
So we get down to the jail, and this is my first jail experience. I get booked in, and they're asking me, you don't got anything on you, right? And I'm like, fuck no. What do you mean? No, I don't have anything on me. What do you talk like? I'm talking shit to the cop on the way down to the jail because I know it's a misdemeanor and I know I'm going to get out tomorrow. Like I was so confident about that because again, I'm the smartest guy in the room, right?
Mhm.
And and I had this little zipper on the inside of my coat, and they pulled out a bag of brown sugar. And I say brown sugar because what I used to do is I would take bags that had heroin at one point, throw brown sugar in it, and I would sell it to people. But because there was heroin in the bag previously, when they tested it, it came back as heroin. And I was charged with an F3 conveyance, felony conveyance charge, bringing drugs into a correctional facility. and an F5 possession charge. And I'll never forget when they pulled that bag out, he kind of like swung it in front of my face and he's like, "That's 2 felonies right there." And I was like, "The how am I ever going to come back from this? There's felonies destroy your chances at jobs, places to live." Um, I just couldn't believe it happened. They dismissed it for future indictment because they had to test it, like I mentioned, and I did get out the next day on the misdemeanor. And then there was another incident where we had a hotel, and I always tell people this. This is what a good night for Lewis looked like in addiction. Um, we had a hotel room. I had cigarettes. I had both of my drugs of choice, which were crack cocaine and heroin at the time. And I had like some extra cash for like a couple McDoubles from McDonald's. So
Mhm.
like that was like a dope night. Like I had enough money for everything I needed, right? But I wanted to go to the grocery store and get some snacks. So I take off in mom's minivan and I'm driving and then darkness, black, nothing. And I wake up in the hospital.
Mm.
And apparently I had OD. Okay, great. And immediately I go for my wallet because I had drugs in my wallet and they were gone. That's going to be 2 more felonies. And it was. They caught me with heroin and crack cocaine. So now I'm sitting on 4 felonies, all waiting on testing for future indictment. And I got an OVI because I was like passed out in an intersection when they found
What?
me. So I remember I got put on probation for the OVI misdemeanor probation, and I went the first time, dropped dirty immediately. I couldn't
Were
quit.
you
Like I
trying?
could not stop. I there was one time where a buddy of mine, he had like 6 months sober, and he asked me to go to a recovery meeting with him. And I went to the meeting, and the guy was telling his story, sort of like what I'm doing today. And I remember I went up to him afterwards and I thanked him. And I said, the difference between you and I is that you ran into legal trouble and I hadn't yet. This was before I had been arrested, like before my first arrest. And 6 months later, I was in the back of a cop car. So
Yeah.
he was exactly right. He was exactly right. Of course he was.
Mhm.
It's easy now to understand that. Um, yeah, I definitely knew at that point I was having issues. I knew that I was struggling and I couldn't quit. I didn't know how to quit. Um, but my
Did
ego,
did you talk to mom about that? Like, did you and your mom have conversations about like this
no,
is
no,
we shouldn't, none of that?
there was no stopping. Like when it came to her, she didn't want to live anyway. Like she would talk about how she couldn't wait to see her mom again and
Mm.
like sick, like morbid shit all the time. I don't think she even wanted to be alive, quite frankly. So that affluent community I grew up in, my dad had sold the house by now, and we moved over to the west side of Columbus, which is notoriously known for drugs, which did not help my cause much. But eventually, Dad kicked me out. Finally, I was like, okay, later, like whatever. Um, I remember that first day homeless, I went straight to this church that was like a mile away from our house. And I went there because I knew that people at churches are nice and they'll give you money, they'll give you food, they'll give you clothes, they'll give you whatever you need, so on and so forth. And they did. They gave me money and they gave me a sleeping bag and they gave me all this shit, everything I needed to be homeless. I got my little homeless kit
Mhm.
and I remember that night I laid down. I found this like I went into the woods. There's this park by my parents' condo, and I went into the woods and I laid down and I went to bed. And I woke up at like 3 a.m. and it was pouring down rain. And I had
Mm.
nothing covering me, no tent, no tree cover. I mean, I had some tree coverage, and I pulled the sleeping bag up over my head. And I just remember thinking, like, how did you end up here? Like, the math did not add up. I had every opportunity in the world, like all this privilege, all this opportunity. And yet there I was strung out on heroin in a sleeping bag in the woods. And I couldn't believe it. And I remember my mom, I like met up with her one day and she's like, "Yo, Lewis, like 7 sheriffs just showed up at our house. Like they're looking for you. So those felony indictments, they had come back. And they were now actively trying to find me. And I was walking down the street one day. This is like a month into being homeless. And this like Mazda sedan pulls up on us or pulls up on me, but it had like limo tint windows. And I was like, oh, yep, that's them. That's the marshals. Here we go. And it was, they hopped out, guns drawn, get on the ground. All right. Oh, okay. Like I was never a big fighter because to me, the criminal world, I call it the game, and I was in the game. And in that moment, I lost. Simple as that. Jail comes with the game, you know? And I lost that day and off to jail I went. This was my longest stay in the county jail. It was 5 months straight. And then I go to court for the felonies. And the judge at the time was like, Mr. Essig, this is since these are your first felonies, we can offer you probation. But if you violate, I'm going to send you to prison for the maximum amount of time possible. That was between 5 and 8 years. And I was not feeling that. Okay. I was not feeling doing 5 to 8 in prison. So I remember I went back to the holding cell behind the courtroom and I went up to my went up to my public defender and I was like, listen, man, can you get me help? And it was the first time I ever asked for help. And the only reason I did it was because of the consequences. I didn't want to go to prison. He goes, all right, let me see what I can do. And he goes out, he talks to the judge, he talks to the prosecutor, and they got me assessed for this drug court program. Eventually they accepted me. They let me out of jail. I had, 5.5 months clean, I think, when it was all said and done. I got out on a Wednesday. And I remember Friday morning rolled around. And I woke up really early. I don't know why, but I woke up at like 6 or 6:30. Like it's early. If I use now and drink a bunch of water, I can probably get this shit out of my system by Monday when they drug test me. So I call my dope dealer. He comes to this house where I'm at on house arrest. It's not my parents. The judge wouldn't let me stay with my mom because he knew about her, like in her use. My drug dealer shows up, gives me a bag. I go upstairs to the bathroom and I snort a line of heroin. I remember snorting the line. I remember being in the bathroom and I remember thinking, I want to go smoke a cigarette. I started to head down the stairs and then that's when it got kind of fuzzy and then it was black. I woke up in the front yard with 5 paramedics standing over top of me. I had overdosed again. They Narcaned me and brought me back. And I'm on house arrest too, by the way.
Yeah.
So when they throw me in the ambulance and take me to the hospital, I'm like, I'm gonna be off my monitor for like 5 or 6 hours. There's no excuse for this. There's no way to explain this to my house arrest officer. And Monday rolled around. All I did was come in, gave her my paperwork. I told her I OD'd, and they arrested me. And back to jail I went again. So I went back for 2 weeks and I got out. Now, what comes with drug court is it's like super intensive probation. You have to see the judge once a week. You go in front of him once a week and he, talks to you. You see your probation officer once a week. You have to go to 3 recovery meetings plus a week. You have to go to outpatient groups. You have to do counseling. I had to do all this shit. And I did that for 6 months and I stayed sober for 6 months and my life did get better, but I was a miserable piece of shit. Like just because you take the drugs and alcohol out of someone's body doesn't make them a good person. They have to do the work on themselves. And I did absolutely zero work on myself. So that left you with just kind of an asshole. I was just kind of a miserable asshole because I wanted to get high, you know what I mean? But I couldn't because of this dumbass drug court thing. And eventually I did relapse. I started shooting cocaine, drinking, things of that nature. I gave them like 4 dirty urines for cocaine and they sent me to a minimum security prison for 5.5 months. Now, the kicker. After the dirty urines came back, I called somebody I knew in recovery, and I told him I was willing to do anything it took to get sober, right? Anything. Tell me what to do. Please teach me. Please show me.
Was this a turning point for you? Like, did the fear just increase that you were going to jail, or was there like an actual like,
Yeah,
you know what,
yes,
maybe I can
correct,
change my life?
correct. No, it was the consequences.
Okay.
100%. 100%
Mhm.
the consequences that drove me to call him. But it worked. I called him and he was like, we're going to do this and we're going to do this and we're going to do this and you're going to do this. And I did all of it. And I remember I stayed sober for 3 weeks and I felt different this time, right? It felt different. Like I was like clearing away some of that bullshit, like that baggage that we carry as addicts prior to getting clean. Like I was emptying some of the stuff out of that bag.
Mhm.
And I remember I went to court and I told the judge, like, man, I'm doing great. I know I had those dirty urines and everything's great. Now I'm working with someone in recovery and I'm going to recovery meetings and I'm a manager at a sub shop. That was my like big thing was that I was a manager at a sub shop.
Mhm.
I would tell the judge that and think that that was going to like keep me out of trouble or something.
Mhm.
Just fucking insane. But he was like, that's great, Mr. Essig, but we're gonna take you into custody today. And I lost it. And like he, I couldn't get past that I could figure it out. I could figure it out. That they didn't know what they were talking about. I didn't need you. I don't need you guys. This guy's helping me. We're good. Like, and I flipped out in the courtroom. I totally flipped out. I kept yelling about how I was a manager at a sub shop over and over and over. And how I had my shit figured out. But it didn't matter. Then the deps came down, the deputies came down and grabbed me and cuffed me up. And I was, but the last time I drank was July 3rd, 2016. So this was my first time going to jail sober. And I'll
Mhm.
tell you what, going to jail sober is so much easier than going to jail while you're detoxing.
Oh,
And I
I
say
can't
that
imagine.
yeah, no, I mean, it really makes things so much better because I'm already yes, I'm tall and I'm 6'4", but I'm not a very big guy. And when you go in there sick, you're a target immediately. People want, your mat, people want whatever. Like they try to take your shit. You got to fight for your stuff. And you're sick as a dog. None of that this time. They had people who would come in and bring in meetings. I went to every single one. I started to take things seriously and I started to realize the real turning point was not a physical event, but it was I don't have all the answers. And maybe if I listen to these guys, my life will change.
Let's take a break, hear from today's sponsors, and then we'll start talking about recovery.
Cool.
With over 20 years of experience, Danielle Dion is a parenting coach, qualified mediator, and specialist in child rights and family conflict. She helps families navigate modern parenting challenges, from screen time battles to high conflict co parenting. Her work blends research backed strategies with a deep commitment to justice, equity, and reconciliation. Whether you need personalized coaching or mediation support, Danielle is here to help you build safer, more connected relationships. To learn more or book a session today, find her links in the show notes below. All right, EHN Canada is Canada's leading provider of mental health and addiction services, providing evidence-based, medically assisted care with one-year wraparound services for those suffering from substance use disorder. In Saskatchewan, their care is 100% supported by Saskatchewan Health. To learn more, find their link in the show notes below. Wellness News, Choice for Healthy Living, is a local resource that works to connect people to health and wellness-related products, services, and expert advice from industry professionals, locally allowing us to connect and engage. Check out wellnessnews.ca or skwellnesshub.ca today to learn more. If you'd like to see our content uncensored, we are now offering channel memberships. There is a lot of things we can't show you without getting restricted, so if you want the full conversation or to check out our merch, or if you want to show us some love and buy us a coffee, all of those links are in the show notes below.
Yeah, dude. So like I'm in this prison and like by no means, and again, it's minimum security. By no means am I like a model inmate. I got caught smoking cigarettes in there. Like I still was doing some of this, similar behaviors, if you will. The addict behavior shit.
Mm-hmm.
But things were starting to click for me, and I was also racking up time. And when I got released, the day I got released was January 3rd, 2017, which was exactly 6 months sober for me.
Mhm.
And they always say the day you get out, go straight to a meeting. Like, it's very important. And I remember them saying that, and I was like, well, I need to go to a meeting. And I did. And I got my little 6-month coin, and I was like, you know what? Holy shit, I got a shot here. Like, I got a shot. And life just started to get better, dude. I remember I got a job at a pizza place, and I was making $7.25 an hour. And I was so stoked to be making $7.25 an hour. Because here's the thing. This is what I tell people. If you had come to me in my jail cell with a contract, and the contract said, line one, job at McDonald's, $10 an hour. That's what we're going to give you. Line two, we're going to give you a fucking 2000 Honda Civic with 70,000 miles on it. Line three, we're going to give you a bank account. Line four, we're going to give you a shitty apartment. It's going to fucking be a total piece of shit, but you're going to have a place to live. And line five, we're going to give you you're going to get a girlfriend. She's not going to be what you want it to be, but you're going to have a girlfriend. I would have signed that bitch so fast, your head would spin. Because I had this epiphany in jail that I was like, oh my God, these places exist for people like me. That's why they build them. Because people like me will never get their shit together. So, like, I need a place to live, right? That's like, it was like, it made sense. Like, I'll never figure it out. And as long as these places exist, I'll have a roof over my head. As long as these institutions exist. And so that's why I say, if you had come to me with that contract, I would have signed it. And I would have completely fucked myself over. I would have sold myself short by $1 million, right? But I had this job at this pizza shop. I remember I went to be a manager. I applied to be a manager. They refused to let me because of my felonies, so I left. Went to a Yeah, like, fuck you. I can't
Did
manage
you
a pizza
did
shop because I'm
did
a
you tell them
felon.
that you managed the sub shop?
Yeah, right.
And still?
That would that would have been a great opportunity to bring that up. I've got experience. I was a manager of a sub shop.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Fuck. You're the first person to ever say that. That's so funny. Um, yeah, I couldn't fathom that I couldn't run a pizza shop because of my felonies. Like, it felt very insulting to me. Went and worked at a hotel. They treated me great. It paid like 13 an hour. So now I'm like doubling up my income. Still not a lot of money, but we're taking steps forward. I got an apartment, which was a Section 8 apartment, but I had to pay for it.
Mm.
It wasn't free. Yeah, I had to pay for it. And when I say bed bugs and roaches, I truly, that's what I was living with. And then eventually I bought a car. And like, so, things start, and then relationships start to come back. People start to come back into my life, and things start to get good again. And, it was amazing how once I shut the fuck up and took the fucking cotton, out of my ears and put it in my fucking mouth and just listened,
Mhm.
my life changed, right? I
Now,
went to a recovery meeting every single day.
steps?
Yep. Whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Whole thing.
Is there any sort of like aha moments that you had in working the program? Like, some people talk
Uh,
about step 4 or step 9 or
yeah, step 4 wasn't scary to me at all because it was
Mhm.
my shit and I already knew it. So it's like I trusted my sponsor, so like it wasn't hard for me to write that shit down and share it with another man. Because
Mhm.
I knew he had been through similar things. So like, if you're scared of step 4, stop being a bitch. That's literally my advice to people. Like seriously, it's
Yeah.
not scary at all. Um, I learned what a higher power was. I used the rooms for quite a long time
Mhm.
because I couldn't wrap my head around something that wasn't tangible.
Mhm.
And then eventually, and especially now, Like that has evolved so much over the years. All I call it is HP, higher power. And um I look back on the past 8 years, soon to be 9, and it's perfect. It all happened perfectly. Every last fucking bit of it. Like, I wouldn't change any of it. I wouldn't change the denial of the manager position. I wouldn't, none of that shit. Um, it was fantastic. The other thing I learned was always say yes to recovery. And I have stood by that the entire time. If someone asks me to do something, I fucking do it. You know, integrity. If
Mhm.
you tell someone you're going to be there, fucking show up. You know,
Mhm.
that's one of my biggest pet peeves is when people say they're going to do something and don't do it. Because I always think to myself, like, if I promise my friend like I'm going to go with them to this show or go with them to a game, and then maybe I had a long day at work and I don't really want to go, but they're looking forward to it, man. Like, show up for them.
Yeah.
Be a good person.
Mhm.
That's super important to me. Um, yeah, dude. Like, I went from a person who would literally do anything to take from you to a person who would do anything to give to you.
What did the first time that you did that, the first time that you internalized that and you showed up for someone, like, do you remember that? Do you remember what that felt like after?
So I think the best example of that is the correctional facility I was incarcerated at.
Mhm.
I started bringing meetings in. I
Mm.
said those guys deserve it. You know, they deserve to know that I was in here just like them, and uh, I would bring speakers in and run meetings and all those types of things.
Mhm.
Now, here's where it gets fucking crazy. So I had worked my way up in the food industry. I was working at a hotel and I was waiting tables at like a really nice restaurant. So I was making pretty good money at the restaurant. And COVID hit. And I'll
Mhm.
never forget going in that Sunday. And I mean, I worked in hospitality. Both my jobs were hospitality, the literal area that got hit the hardest by COVID. And I remember going in, watching DeWine close restaurants on television and just being like, wow, I just fucking lost everything. I just lost my jobs. And I got this bright idea to go back to my judge who had sent me to that prison. And I said, hey, man, would you write me a reference letter to work there?
Mm.
And he said, yeah, absolutely. You know, if you want to help people, yeah, I'll write you a letter. And I go in and I apply, and they ended up hiring me. And so now here I am working at the correctional facility that I was incarcerated at. Like my manager was my CO when I was
Mm.
there, like my direct supervisor. So like, but
Wow.
she was awesome. She was really good at her job. And so now I'm running a unit of 70 guys, just, by myself. Not, I mean, there's case managers in there and shit, and obviously other security that circles the facility. But I remember thinking how crazy that, like, walking through for the first time and like all the guys looking at me like I'm a cop felt so fucking weird because I
Mm.
wanted to tell them like, guys, I'm fucking just like you. You know what I mean? But and I did eventually, but it was bizarre. And then they promoted me one step up where I oversaw the security of the whole facility. And then I got promoted to what was called behavior supervisor. And I managed 4 COs on my unit that I used to live on
Mhm.
and all the residents and made sure that everything ran smoothly. I'm the only former inmate to make it to leadership at that facility. I'm probably the only former inmate to work there.
Mhm.
But to make it, I made it into leadership, and it was by far my favorite job in the entire world that I've had up to this point. It was
Mhm.
so fulfilling because once the guys found out that I was them, the respect level shot through the roof, and my ability to like de-escalate situations.
So was there like data points? Like if you look at the data from the correctional, could you see where Lewis was hired? Was there like a difference in the escalations or in the, you know what I mean?
I think that if you asked, you 100% could say that I changed the culture in the facility. And I don't say that out of ego. I
No.
really mean that. And I wish that more correctional facilities would hire people with lived experience, because I think that they would just be so much more successful. Because the biggest gripe was always like, you don't fucking know me. You don't know what I've been through. That's what they tell the fucking staff members. But with me, you can't say that to me, because I know.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a story. There was a guy who came back that was locked up in there with me. And I remember he saw me, and the look on his face was pure embarrassment. Like, oh my God, you're here working here. Like, you're successful now, and I'm fucking still getting locked up. He ended up getting terminated and sent to a higher level prison for breaking the rules. I'm the one who cuffed him. I'm the one who walked him out to parole. And on the way out, he said, Lou, he said, if this wasn't you doing this, this would have gone a completely different way. And like, that was one of those moments where I was like, yeah, that's the respect factor that I got from living and walking in their shoes. It was cool, man. It was really cool. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
So you haven't talked about mom uh, since entering recovery. What happened there?
Yeah, so she passed away. I mean, dude, I gotta be honest with you. It's 6 years. I want to say is August 31st, Overdose Awareness Day.
Yes.
She passed away on Overdose Awareness Day
Sorry
6
to
years
hear
ago.
that. So what
And
was
I
that?
remember, yeah, no, I remember it was 5 a.m. I was in bed and my phone rang, and it was my dad. And I was like, that's weird. Like, why is he calling me at 5 a.m.? And then he called again, and I knew. I knew before I picked up the phone that she was gone. And I answered the phone, and hey Lou, mom passed away. So, I rush over to the condo and watch her get wheeled out in a body bag. Uh, it was tough. It was tough to see that in recovery. And dude, I tried everything I could to help her, but like, as well as I do that you can't get someone sober. I can't wave a magic wand over you and get you sober. Like,
Well, and that was
it-
that was kind of what I was asking. Like, you entered recovery, you're incarcerated, and you come out into the world, and you're sober now. But mom is still doing her thing. Like, what did you guys
our
still spend
relationship,
time together? Like, what did that look like?
no, we very rarely, I would pop by. She didn't care about any of my accomplishments. Like, that hurt. I just stayed away. I
Yeah.
truthfully, just to protect myself. Like, and I feel bad for my dad because he had to live with her still. And then my sister started getting high and using with my mom. Not too long after that, after I got sober. She's actually in the same drug court program that I was in. I made a phone call when she got picked up for a robbery. They decided to go to Best Buys and go in the back and steal large screen TVs. She got caught, and I called the judge and said, "Hey, yo, judge, my sister's in jail. I'd like to see her in your drug court program. If you could make that happen, that'd be amazing." And he did. Again, like, super giving, understanding judge. Obviously, as you can see,
So the same judge?
same judge. Yeah, so I eventually the director and the deputy director of that facility who hired me left, and they brought in new people, and I did not like the direction that the facility was headed in, so I left and went into sales. I had a buddy of mine that was twisting my arm. And at this point in time, like, now I had like taken vacations, like I went to Vegas sober. People always think I remember thinking, like, how the fuck do you do a vacation sober? How do you go to, I went to Charleston, I went to Miami, I've been on all these trips, and I don't need a fucking drink or a drug. I prefer to be present and like in the moment.
Raw dog
That's
reality.
super fucking, yeah, dude. Like, there's the good stuff, all the good stuff in recovery, and like, sure, I guess that's materialistic, but like, not really, because I didn't ever think I was going to get to take a fucking vacation. I never
Yeah,
thought that was real. Like,
yeah.
I would have signed that contract.
Man,
I'd be at McDonald's for $10 an hour for the rest of my life.
tomorrow my son and I, in fact, the whole family, we're driving to a community 3 hours away, and we're buying a convertible Mustang.
Are
So
you?
me and my son can work on it. He's 11 years old and he's starting to take
Oh, that's
interest. So
fun. That's
yeah,
fucking
man, it's
cool.
a barn find.
That's dope.
It's needs a lot of work, but man, it's a convertible Mustang. So let's go.
No,
I
that's
never
so
would have been
cool.
able to
That's
do
so
that
cool.
8 years ago. You know what I mean?
No,
So I feel what you're
no.
saying is what I'm trying to get at here.
Yeah, dude. Like, and like, you know, you, I'm dating this girl at the time, and she's got kids, and I'm playing dad, and um, where we were living, I couldn't believe it. I remember I bought my second car, but I bought the one I wanted. Like, I went out and bought a fucking Cadillac. I ended up leaving the logistics company after 2 years. I was one of their top brokers. One of their little prize packages was a trip to the Bahamas. They take the top brokers to the Bahamas.
Hmm.
And I share this story. I think it's important for people to hear, because I went there with the intention of having as much fun as possible. That meant snorkeling. That meant the beach. That meant feeding the pigs. That meant all this shit. I went downtown, like, met the locals, hung out with everything. Every other employee that went on that trip sat by the pool and drank the entire day, every day.
Mm.
And I was out snorkeling and having fun and like doing all this fun shit because I was sober, right?
Mm.
Those guys, even though they may not be alcoholics, maybe they're just problem drinkers, they're fucking wasting away a really, really cool experience sitting by the pool drinking. I mean, why? For what? Like, that's not fun.
You don't have to leave
Like, to
town to do
me,
that.
yeah, like, that's not fucking cool. That's not fun. You're in the fucking Bahamas, dog. Go out
Yeah.
and see something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so like, that was really dope. Now I work for our local news station, which
Mm.
is, again, even crazier. That's the marketing consultant piece. Friend in recovery helped me get the job, and it's crazy to think that, like, I now have a job that people go to school for, like, work hard for, and like, desire. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
somehow I swindled my way in there,
Ha.
regardless of all the heroin and crack and fucking cocaine I put in my body. I
Maybe it was
swindled
those
my
maybe
way in.
maybe it was those things that taught you the lessons you needed to do that job. You know,
I
like
mean,
you
yeah.
go to you go to my YouTube channel and you look at the banner art and it says lived experiences in education second to none. Like, I'm a welder, man. Like I am an interprovincial journeyman welder. And 4.5 years ago, in the middle of COVID, I decided to start a podcast, and I had no business doing that at all. So, like I said, there's people all over the place wondering how I'm doing what I'm doing, because I didn't go to school for comms or video production or broadcasting or any of that. And today I sit before you. This is my job. This is what I do as a career. I do public speaking and I do podcasting. So it just happens, man. And those people in recovery, they're everywhere. It's like the red car series. It's the red car syndrome. Like, once you buy a red car, you start seeing red cars everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of the best things that happened in my life are due to relationships that I've fostered with other people in recovery who came before me. You know what I mean?
100%.
It's a beautiful thing,
100%.
man. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Almost every opportunity I've been given has come from somebody in recovery that, you know,
Mhm.
freely gave it away.
Mhm. Mhm. Speaking of recovery, like, what is that looking like for you when you are, you're winning now at life?
Yeah.
How has that changed your spiritual practice? How has that changed the way that you serve the recovery community?
Oh, I mean, dude, I pick guys up from sober livings, take them to recovery meetings. I do the podcast, Get a Grip podcast, which
Mhm.
is, we've had guys on from the correctional facility that were locked up there when I worked there. And like, so we have that going on. Um, I do events in the community, like set up panels and speak on panels. I do a lot of public speaking too. I speak to the 8th graders and the 10th graders over in Grandview at
Mhm.
the high school I went to. They actually like integrated me into their curriculum. So like I do health for 8th graders and then biology for 10th grade. So like they teach the biology or the science of addiction. And then I'm like kind of the
The lab rat.
storyteller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's what not to do.
Um, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it, dude, you'd be amazed at like in this day and age because of social media, what they know. Like the
Mhm.
questions I get asked, like I heard, and all of 8th graders ask me like, "Oh, what's withdrawal like?" And I'm like,
Mhm.
"How the fuck do you even know what that is?" I didn't know what that was in 8th grade. Like,
Mhm.
it's unbelievable what they know now and how accessible things are to kids nowadays,
Yeah. Yeah.
with everything in my fucking body. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you look like. If you get sober, you make the decision to get sober, and then you make the decision to work hard and take action and not just fucking sit there and think or intend or pray. Because praying is important, but you
Mhm.
can't just pray and expect shit to, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
It's not how it works. You got to meet them halfway. But
Mhm.
if you can get sober and you can work and you can work hard, you can do fucking anything. Like, I believe that with everything inside of me, because so far up to this point, like, have there been roadblocks? Yes, but I don't remember or see those. Like, of course I remember Donato's telling me, no, you can't fucking be a manager, but like, that's irrelevant now because I'm so far past that.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter. That could have been it. That could have been the dagger for me. I could have given up right there
Mhm.
and said, well, guess I'm just gonna make $7 an hour for fucking the next 5 years.
Mhm.
No, no. Take action. On to the next one. Go find somebody who will hire you and pay you more money. Like, uh, it's fear. It's fear. It's
It is.
fear is the thing, the driving factor. And I've seen normies with fear that stops them from improving their life.
Yep.
It's not just us. It's not just us addicts.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing, man. I'm very, very lucky. There's days where you wonder why. Why
Mm.
me? Like, why I was so bad off. And like I said, if I could compare myself to some kids that I went to school with that never got into drugs, and I've come out the other side of this doing better than them. And I don't know if that's because of like the little tricks I have from recovery
Mhm.
or what, but I believe if you can get sober, you can do anything. Period. And that's
Do you
that's
ever
that's my stance.
do you ever come to a place where you don't know what to do with the serenity? You don't know what to do with the success? Like for me, like it's funny. Like right now, I'm coming to a place where accomplishing the things I've been trying to accomplish, and I don't know what to do with that. Like you get so used to the struggle, to the grind, to the trying to get to a certain place, but when you get there, it's like, oh shit.
For me, with our podcast, for instance,
Hmm.
I'll have numbers in my head. I want to hit this number. And then we
Hmm.
hit the number and it feels good for about 15 seconds. And
Yeah,
then I'm like, okay, next, bigger
yeah,
number.
yeah. It's like
Like,
we're addicted to the grind. You're
yeah,
addicted to the
which is
struggle.
fine.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
okay with that.
As long as you can manage it and it's not burning your life down in the same way. You know what
I
I mean? Because
mean,
like when I was doing this, the first 3 years, I was glued to screens. You know how the shady 80s, the fentanyl, it's a blue powder, right? So I remember, and
uh,
that was one of the things that I was addicted to. And it's funny because all of the analytics on all of the platforms, those are blue lines. Like they're all blue. And I just came to this realization, like, man, I just changed the lines that I was snorting. They're still, it's the same thing, right? So, because I would just sit there and stare at the analytics, and try to think of ways like, how can I make this better? How
yep,
can I get more views? And like, I had
yep,
to give up on that. I had to start to realize, like,
yeah,
okay, I have to surrender this. I have to make good content. I have to do what I can that's reasonable, and I have to surrender the rest to something other than myself, because I was killing myself. Like my partner Donna, she was legitimately worried for my health because I would get so fucking stressed out if I wasn't getting the
Yeah.
numbers I thought I should, and I feel like you
Yeah.
can relate to that.
Here's the first thing, right?
Yeah.
Most people wouldn't have the fucking balls to
Press
take
record.
the little bit of money. No, the little bit of money, like for our podcast, I got a little bit of money when my dad died. Like most people get like fucking a house and like, or like fat ass check, whatever. I had a little bit of money and I said, you know what? I remember it so vividly. I was sitting on my ex-girlfriend's couch and it was like a lightning bolt hit me. I'd wanted to do a podcast and I was like, you know what? My parents are gone. Fuck it. I'm going to do it. And I took that little bit of money and I invested it in this. And like, I am honestly, if I wanted to, I could quit my day job today and do this full time. It's not time yet. It's not time yet. That'll come. That day will come. But to your point with the numbers, dude, like, yeah, there were so many days, like, in my role too is like very much the motivator. I'm very much like the motivator of the group. I try to keep people's morale up and like remind them, like, guys, it's okay. We got something here. Let's fucking relax. We're doing all the right things. We're making all the right moves. But yeah, dude, I've been there and looking at the numbers and like, why isn't this fucking popping off? This was supposed to be a really good one. Or whatever the case may be, but then another one does. And it works out.
Yeah. And you didn't see that coming. Like, oh, I thought that one was shitty, and here
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, is there anything that you'd like to leave us with today? Is there anything that you'd like to say? Someone out there struggling?
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, man, I just it's possible. I truly was a bottom of the barrel IV junkie, and I'm telling you right now, if I can do it, anybody can fucking do it, because I was a disaster and I was getting high with mom. So fight for it. It's worth it. And listen, give it 6 months. And if your life doesn't get better, you can always fucking refund that misery. It's always right there.
Where can people find you?
At Lewis Essig on Instagram, and then our podcast handle is at official Get a Grip podcast across the board, every single platform you can think of.
Right on. I'll make sure I throw a link in the show notes. Lewis, thanks so much for joining me today. And I guess that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, take good care,
Thank
my friend.
you, man. All right, buddy.
Hold up. If this conversation gave you something to think about or something to talk about, help us keep it going. Give us a like, subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Drop a comment. We read them all. And if you're listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever you listen, leave us a rating and a review. It helps more people find the show. Before you go, check out another episode. It boosts the algorithm and helps us reach more people who need to hear these stories. That's it for now. We'll be back soon with another dose of lived experience on Hard Knocks Talks.
Say, this is Hard Knocks Talks.